Most people put together scrapbooks for happy occasions, but Israeli Ori Shahak, a former POW, has one for the most traumatic event of his life.
These are pictures when I climb on the plane. This is the Phantom.
Yeah.
I didn't know that someone was taking pictures at the time. This is me before I went to the mission.
Ori, a former fighter pilot, never completed that mission on October 7th, 1973. It was the second day of the Yom Kippur War, and he was sent to bomb military installations on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights.
After we attacked the missile battery, the plane was shut down. We parachuted from the plane. It was burning all over, and we had to eject from the plane. And we were captured immediately. When my legs touched the ground, I saw the Syrian soldier about 3 or 4 meters from me, running with the guns.
And where did they take you?
They took us to Damascus. We were in jail, in prison, El Maza prison, which was a regular prison. It was not a POW's camp or something like that. I was 4 months in solitary confinement in a small room with no water faucet or a toilet or any facility that human being needs.
Like Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit, who was held by Hamas militants for over 5 years, Ori had to face the fear, confusion, and isolation of being held in solitary confinement. I read that you said that the loneliness that isolation was the worst part.
That's right, because at that period of time, I was also tortured by them. They interrogated me very severely, and they were very tough with me. They hit me, they gave me electric shocks and so. But the most difficult thing was just to be isolated, just to be alone. I can't imagine how it is to stay isolated, solitary for more than 5 years. Right.
Ori tried to maintain some control over his life in captivity. He stayed awake at night when the warden slept. He ate portions of his food on his own schedule, and he escaped into vivid memories of life before the war, memories with his family, his wife, and 5-year-old son. But that sense of powerlessness haunted him. How do you deal with that kind of anxiety of thinking that really, this is what I think about when I think about Gilad, because for how many days and nights did he think maybe tomorrow they were going to kill him? It must be an absolutely terrible, frightening feeling.
That's right. I think the uncertainty of the situation is quite frightening. You know, you don't know what would happen to you in the next few hours, so tomorrow.
Chava, Ori's wife, had received an official letter from the state that he was dead. She refused to believe it. 2 months later, European clergymen who met with Ori were the first to notify Israel that he was still alive. Then the tide started to turn. After 4 months of solitary confinement, Ori was transferred to a holding room with other Israeli POWs, which gave him hope he'd be released in a prisoner swap. He was allowed to send postcards and receive mail from his family. Together, the POWs found a way to keep their spirits up. While you were in captivity, you guys made this flag?
Yeah, it was made from a T-shirt that we received from Israel. And you see, a friend of mine, he saw it with needles that he made from small bones, from chicken bones. And we drew the lines and the Magen David.
Did they know that you made this?
No, we hide it, of course, and we raised it on a stretcher because some of us were wounded and they had stretchers, and we raised it on the stretcher, and we sang Hatikva, and we were told later by the other soldiers that they didn't know that it was the Independence Day, but when they heard our singing Hatikva, they joined us in their room. So
it's very moving.
Yeah.
That flag has now become famous. 8 months after the Syrians captured him behind enemy lines, Ori returned to Israel in a prisoner exchange deal that saw 65 Israelis come home in return for 450 Syrians. And this is the shot.
Yeah, when I came back, this is my wife and my child.
And your wife was pregnant, right?
She was pregnant, and my daughter was born 6 days after I came back.
It's a nice homecoming, huh?
Yeah, of course. I was so excited, you know.
You reached out to the Shalit family not long after Gilad was taken captive. What was it that you were able to help them understand that maybe brought them some relief?
I think the most important thing was that they could see former POWs who recover, who have a ordinary life with a family, going to work, you know, because they were anxious how Gilad would come back. And especially I think my friends from Erim Balayla Association, which is the association of Israeli former POWs, and when they saw my friends who were captured for almost 3 years by terrorists in Damascus, they were also isolated for almost 3 years, and they saw them, they could speak to them, and to understand that it is possible to recover after such a difficult situation.
How was your recovery? How difficult was it? How long did you feel it took you?
I can't say exactly how long it took, but many things that happened to me during the almost 38 years from my return. At the beginning, I didn't understood that it is because I was a POW.
Released those first shots on Egyptian television, what did you think?
I didn't think at all.
Ori now recognizes some of his emotional hangovers, his preference for quiet, small, intimate places, how the sound of footsteps behind him can leave him unsettled. But he had to connect the dots years later because Israel's defense ministry didn't provide mental health services to POWs until about 10 years ago. He found help instead in an organization called Erim Balayla, or Awake at Night. Ori is now the chairman.
You know, all the emotions.
If you had some advice for Gilad Shalit, what would you tell him?
I would say try to do what you like. Don't hear what people tell you to do. Do whatever you like. I can say from my experience that the first thing I did when I came back, it was to be alone with my wife, with my child, to play with him, and to go back as soon as possible to ordinary life.
Do you feel optimistic that he'll get through this, knowing what you went through?
Yeah, I'm really optimistic because now there are many professionals in Israel. There is our organization that was not when I came back, And also the Ministry of Defense, the Army, they are more aware what to do, how to help former POW, so I'm quite optimistic.
Ori Shachach went on to have a third child after his release from captivity. He then became a fighter pilot instructor for the Israeli Air Force. He's now retired and living here in Modi'in with 6 grandchildren. He managed, after his very difficult experience as a POW in Syria, to lead a normal life. And now many are hoping that Gilad Shalit can do the same. Jordana Miller, JN1, Modi'in.